Breaking Down the Law is sponsored by Battle-Born Injury Lawyers.
Hey, you heard it. We are breaking down the law today, looking into immigration matters, the stories that has made headlines, not only here locally, but across the entire country. Here to discuss the issue, attorney Matthew Hoffman with Battle-Born Injury Lawyers. Matthew, we do have a specific case from here at home that made headlines. A lot of people can learn from this.
Yeah, so recently Miss Ariano, her family held a press conference the other day. There's a 16-year-old daughter, a 12-year-old son, and a 21-year-old son. Miss Ariano had been recently pulled over. She had 6 traffic warrants. It was discovered that she had an order of deportation. So she was turned over to the Immigration and Customs Enforcement to execute on that order, and she's being held presently. The family was pleading with Nevadans to call Immigration and Customs to have her released so she wouldn't be deported. Obviously, you know, it's tragic with a 12-year-old, a 16-year-old. Now they got to fend for themselves. How are they going to pay rent? Things of that nature. But the case itself is what's interesting. You know, Miss Ariano, according to what I've read, immigrated here illegally in 1995, and in 2011 is when the process started to get her deported. So this isn't from some raid. This goes all the way back to 2011, prior presidential administration. She went through the appellate process for approximately 6 years, and in 2017, a final order was laid down. She obviously didn't comply with the order. And so when she was recently picked up, they put her into custody with immigration enforcement, and they do plan to deport her.
Right. And, you know, talking about this today, it's important to point out this is a very touchy subject, especially in this day and age. Not taking opinions either way, but breaking down the law and what happened in this case, and quite possibly looking to others here locally as well. But as you pointed out, this was not the result of an ICE raid, which has also been the topic of discussion.
Sure. And so this is what would be the most usual way this thing happens. Local law enforcement arrests somebody for an unrelated crime, and depending on the severity of the crime, it'll depend on how long they hold them. But if they don't have proper documentation, or they think that they are illegal or here illegally, they'll contact Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They then have 48 hours to come and interview the suspect. After 48 hours, you gotta let them go. But if they show up, interview them, find that there's reason to hold them, to put them into deportation proceedings, they can then put them on house arrest with an ankle bracelet. They can post bail. Most aren't held. And then that process, they have to be served with a notice to appear. That has to be served within 72 hours of being issued. And then they have appellate rights. They can fight it. They can try to maintain their status here, which is what happened with Miss Ariano. And she was here for another 6 years fighting it, but ultimately she lost her appeals and she was ordered deported. So there is a process in place. It's not quite what's been reported, that there's a raid and you're arrested and immediately put on, shipped out of town.
Right.
There are rights for these people to fight to stay. And like I mentioned to you before we went on air, what's really tragic about this is she has a 21-year-old son who is a U.S. citizen.
That age is specific.
Yeah, and a 21 or older family member, he could have essentially vouched for her to get her citizenship. But because she has now violated immigration laws, it's very unlikely that would happen.
Right. Well, moving forward, we'll definitely continue paying attention to this case and others. You're looking at the images from the press conference with her family. Thank you so much for joining us here in studio. We will get you connected at our website, news3lb.com, if you have any more questions when it comes to breaking down the law.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you so much.